peace, true peace. Happy holy day, peacemakers. Happy holy day. We're gonna get started here. Sorry I'm late. Hope everyone's enjoying their holy day. True peace, true peace. So we're gonna get started with the divine supplication. First thing first, I want to give honors to the prophet Noble Ali and the divine creator. I want to give honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Honorable Marcus Garvey. I want to give honors to the original staff of the prophet. I want to give honors to all those that came after the prophet, people such as H.I.M Bey, C.M Bey, and many, many others, like the messenger, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Dr. Malachi York-El. True peace. I do not know how we had a robot come in and not show up on the screen. Okay, true peace. All right, y'all. So we're going to get right into this divine supplication for tonight. Get started here. Hope everyone's enjoying their weekend, like I said. True peace, true peace. I'm about to share the room so that way people can know that we are live and five and doing our thing tonight. Right. This week we're going to continue on with our economic series, which has been a very powerful series so far with the things that we're touching on. So we're going to get right into that right here, right now. True peace. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into our divine supplication. All right, y'all know how it go. We begin our prayers and thinking by using the all heavenly one, the Most High, who is sustainer of all the worlds. We do accept the duty you have laid on us to clean up the filth made by the West and its non-submitting fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us, to control the strings of the courses of our lives. Our sustainer, and if we do wrong, please show our divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one that can raise us true followers of the news bearers, and in thy name we carry on. All right, y'all, so let's jump right on into our 19 affirmations. From the Family Guide. We had some issues last week with the book. So let's make sure we don't have them this week. All right. Jump right to it. I'm glad we got the Family Guide here. right. Let's do this. Let's jump right into it. What we accept is fact. What we call the daily affirmation of loyalty of the children of the Elohim. And these affirmations should be read with you and your family, as I say here every week. So first thing first, we accept this fact: the eternal laws of nature as revealed through science, past events, logic, and common sense. Revealed as right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We accept this fact: the highest laws of nature is the cooperation and harmony of all living things. We accept this fact: our way of life is a means to the best end. We accept this fact that loyalty is the greatest of all honors and treason is the worst of all crimes. We accept this fact that what is good for the Holy Tabernacle is the highest virtue, and what is bad for the Holy Tabernacle is the ultimate evil. We accept this fact that the Holy Tabernacle is the finest and noblest organization for all humanity, created by circumstances, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek is the noblest of fraternities on and above this planet. We accept this fact that creativity, love, and cooperation are the essence of success. We accept this fact that truth and facts are always and has always been the originator and creator of all success. We accept this fact that all worthwhile cultures and civilizations came about from the ancient Sumerians and Kamite Egyptians and the Anunnaki, or Elohims from the heavens, without which there would be none. We accept this fact that for the Holy Tabernacle to survive, expand, and advance, we need, first of all, a revolution of values and thoughts, which must start within each person by being truthful with themselves and about themselves. Therefore, we completely and categorically reject all myths, fictions, religions, and lies that have not been proven. That would include your heavens, your hells, your hellfire and brimstones, your horn and pitchfork devils, your winged angels, and your old man God character sitting on the throne up there somewhere. We deal strictly with facts. If you can't prove it, we don't want to hear it. That doesn't mean we won't listen to you. Just don't expect us to accept your beliefs by virtue of a title such as Reverend, Pastor, Deacon, Imam, Sheik, Rabbi, Minister, Theologian, etc. That is your sensationalism, and we deal with just the facts. We accept this fact that the only true revolution is a war of good against evil, right against wrong, fairness against unfairness, loyalty against disloyalty, sincerity against insincerity, honesty against dishonesty. And this war is fought within each person among the agreeable and disagreeable Elohims that make up your willpower. We accept this fact that the unity of our community and its success will only happen with cooperation with all involved. We accept this fact, the total unification of all humanity on the basis of truth, that is, accepting people and races for who and what they are, respecting their culture, their languages, and their beliefs, and expect the same. We accept this fact that the human race, its biological and cultural heritage is now under attack by our own morals, our self-righteousness, our desire to control industry, and these things attack the very existence of humanity. We accept this fact that males as well as females are equal in all things and should be dealt with as partners in all matters. We accept this fact that no one race of people is better than the other. In fact, no one wins the race in racism. We accept this fact that communication between different people is the cure to the ignorance that breeds the disease hate. We accept this fact that a good and well-rounded education could prevent most of the ignorance that plagues the world. We accept this fact that the all is just that, the all. You can't take from the all, you can't add to the all. We are all within the all is one. That is our concept of what you call a deity. To the fulfillment of these facts, we children of the Elohim forever pledge our lives, our sacred honor, and our spiritual zeal. True peace. I see you down there, Brother Jonathan. Bring you up. Happy holy day, peacemakers. Happy holy day. So we're going to jump right into our divine constitution and bylaws and Moorish prayer and get us started for this week. I'm not sure if you can see the invite, but I sent it to you, Brother Jonathan. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you might gotta there you go.
True peace. Happy holiday.
True peace, true peace. Happy holiday, brother. How are you?
Doing good. Clearing out some old energies, bringing in the new.
That's right. Right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and mod you up so you can. Oh snap! Come back up. I moved. I moved you to the audience. You can go ahead and jump back up. I don't know why I did that. I was trying to moderate you so you can go ahead and watch the floor for me. Just make sure that they don't have that ticket. If they have that ticket on their screen, that means they are still guest members in the temple. They're not official members in the temple. Just be aware of that. Let me see. Is it letting you? Do you see the invite? Let me know if you see the invite. Say I already been headed to the room. I'm trying to invite him to speak. Raise your hand. Probably try to raise your hand. Okay, there you go. Is it letting you come up? I see you got your hand raised, but try to leave out and come back in real quick. See if that'll work. Oh, it's still doing it. I didn't even mean to do that. Let me see if we can get somebody else to come in the room. That way they can bring you up. Yeah, because if I leave out the room, it's gonna close the room down. Let me see. You say 4 people came in already. We just gotta wait till one more person come in, and then I'll bring you on stage, Jonathan. I don't know why it's doing that. What's up, brother? Oh, well. Yeah, I don't know why it's doing that. I gotta wait till somebody come in. That sucks. Yeah, probably give it a minute. I'm not sure why it's doing that though. They server been kind of crazy. It says user has already been invited to the room. Let me see. Possibly get one. We can get Doc, one of them to come through. Try to see if I can get you brought up here. Or Brian, maybe. Let's see if he's available. All right, but as soon as I send this link to Noble Brian, see if he can come in the room. We're gonna get started with the divine constitution and bylaws. You called me Tuesday, and you see that. All right. All right, so let's jump into these divine constitution and bylaws and our Moorish prayer. So we can get started here for this week. We're gonna finish where we left off last week, like I said, with the economics series. But first thing first, y'all know how I go. 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. So, gonna dive into the Divine Constitution. As it reads, Act 1, the Grand Sheik and the chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly open and close promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in justice or to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. All right, y'all. So we're going to jump right into our weekly readings for this week, and it's still saying this user is already invited to the room. I don't know, need someone to come on stage, that way I could go ahead and jump down. It say 4 people came in the room. I only seen me and you. We did have a troll or a robot come in here earlier, but nonetheless, we're gonna get into this week's readings. We're gonna kind of get through this a little more swiftly this week because we are 20 minutes behind. So we're gonna be reading chapter 25, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, from the Holy Qur'an Circle 7, which is the precursor for all things to do the Moorish Science Temple of America, or I like to refer to as the precursor, because it's the Holy Covenant. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. Right. And it reads, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. Let the bonds of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers. that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity. And prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam. So this is the precursor behind all movement in the divine and national movement. It's the Holy Covenant. So we should understand not forsaking our brothers and sisters, even though some of them might be wild asses of men and women. Excuse my French, but it just is what it is. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to chapter 47 and 48. Of the Holy Quran, Circle 7. All right, y'all. Chapter 47 is called Egypt, the Capital Empire of the Dominion of Africa. And it reads, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa. The dividing of the land between the father and the son. The dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. It says the Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and all the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren, who sovereign from the land of Canaan, seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa, across Great Atlantis, even unto the present north, south, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also, the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile, westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were not of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. Which our ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who was able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers, unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet Zabuwr Ali, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they will learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. The Prophet Zabuwr Ali was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that is sure to come. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, and colored was given to the Asiatics of America, who were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. Islam. So, my take from this week's reading is that same sentiment that I mentioned last week. It states in Ayat 8 that the river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdom. Also, the river Nile was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile, westward across the great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. So there was trade going on from what we call America to Africa in these ancient times. So trade, economics was going on transatlantically. Across the world. Trade was happening across the world. So this is something that has to be acknowledged. This is something that has to be acknowledged because as we sift through talking about economists, especially who they call the father of economic philosophy, Adam Smith, why doesn't people such as like Imhotep, who would be classified as the father of medicine, not have that same classification as the father of economics if these concepts came out of these pre-modern times? Who is the actual true father of economics that comes from these ancient times? It has to be more than who they refer to as Adam Smith. Islam. All right, so let's go ahead and get into chapter 48, called The End of Time and the Fulfilling of the Prophecies. And it reads, the last prophet in these days is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways, to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner of Jesus, who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who is to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of man, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. The Moorish Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa, there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of man under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be longer upon the earthland, which the Lord thy God Allah had given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn to love, learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. Islam. All right, y'all. So we are here for this week, and we are officially open. So like I said, we're going to start out this week with with our economics series, continuing on where we left off last week, touching on the list of economic philosophers and why there's a lack of indigenous peoples that are in that list of economic philosophers. Or the other question that's being posed also during this series is, why are there not any ancient ones included in the list of economic philosophers, the same way that Imhotep from ancient Egypt is considered the father of medicine? If we know, and this is even documented in Investopedia, that economic philosophy and accounting and these economic principles, formulas, things of that nature have been accounted for during these ancient times, then who were those individuals? They mentioned the Egyptian scribes, the Sumerian and Babylonian scribes. But who were the pioneers? Who were the innovators? Who came with the creativity, as we have documented in the field of medicine with Father Imhotep? So we're gonna do a deep dive again this week, and like I said, we're gonna keep doing this for a couple weeks here, laying down some very, very key principles. We're gonna even dive into the natural economic order of things, because this is what this series is about. It's a precursor to leading us into having that discussion about natural economic order, or nature's economic order, better way to say that. And that'll be one of the things that we'll be making sure we push along as we go here in these next couple weeks. But first, I want to actually start off with that first, with the principles coming from the natural economic order, or what is the aim for the natural economic order. So I'm going to read some source material here. To give us a reference point on that. And then we're going to jump back in where we left off last week on the Investopedia page, on the timeline of economic philosophers and how things just gradually formed itself over time, and the economic systems that we have now with Keynesian economics, which is used by the Federal Reserve still to this day. So getting into the economic order, the natural economic order, the aim and the method, which states, as has been pointed out in the introduction, the economic aim of every kind of socialism is to abolish unearned income, so-called surplus value, sometimes termed rent and interest. To attain this end, nationalization or socialization of production with all its consequences is usually declared to be indispensable. So, just to give some quick feedback on that, it's saying the main concept of socialization or nationalization, to naturalize, is to get rid of the surplus value and make sure that this is spread amongst the people through privatization, which is usually what takes place with nationalization, because you're privatizing. I'm sorry, it's the reverse. You're taking private assets and you're making them public. And I think we discussed the definition of naturalization here before, but I'll leave the definition in the chat. That way you guys could get a feel of what I mean. You put naturalization, I said nationalization. Yeah, this is when you take private ownership and turn it into public assets. Which also could do damage as well if not managed properly. And we do have a very deep history of that not being managed properly, which we'll be getting into as well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right back to our source information here. But like I said, like I said earlier, hope everyone's enjoying the holy day. We're gonna be getting into some real studious things this week, these next couple weeks. Because like I say last week, economics should be a discussion. It should be a topic of discussion amongst you and your peers. Now, especially amongst so-called minorities who really typically don't find themselves having these type of conversations amongst themselves and their peers, especially going into concepts on economics. It's very, especially being someone who myself grew up around a poverty-minded neighborhood or a poverty-stricken neighborhood or an environment, definitely know for a fact that economics is not something that is common in poverty-stricken neighborhoods. And so for us to really be of assistance, these are the conversations that need to be had. Because especially with the examples that we're trying to set by making sure our people understand laws and finances and financial literacy, and also protecting themselves and their liberties, which is taught through civics. Civics is a conversation that needs to be brought up just as well as economics. It's just as important. Economics is briefly described all through the Bible, even the Qur'aan, and other sacred texts. So let's jump right back into the source information. Continuing on, it states, this claim of the dispossessed is supported by Karl Marx's scientific investigation into the nature of capital, which attempts to prove that surplus value is an inseparable concomitant of private enterprise and private ownership of the means of production. right? So they're saying that Karl Marx, through his investigation, getting into the nature of financial capital, or just capital, period, which would be the capital of goods and services in a base economy. Through his investigation, he's saying, or he attempts to prove, that surplus value is not separate from private enterprise or private ownership and the means of its production. So when it comes down to understanding that economics is about what is good for one is good for all, this is where we run into that trouble of the different political sciences, as we discussed here in our first week, because, or I think, no, that was last week, where we discussed that religion is government, and the government, or the ethics of your governance, is based on your political theory, which roots back to religions. And a lot of the political theories in political science, this goes back to religious sects and their different philosophies or different philosophical branches of thinking, which is the laws or way of life or customs of different communities that make up the philosophy for the economy. Your religious thinking is the skeleton for your economic philosophies. So, continuing on, this proposes to demonstrate that this Marxian doctrine is based on untenable premises, which we must abandon in order to arrive at the truth. Conclusions are to the effect that capital must not be looked upon as a material commodity, but as a condition of the market, determined solely by demand and supply. So, well, before I give feedback on that, is the last part here states that the French socialist Proudhon, the opponent of Marx, gave the workers the proof of this more than 50 years ago. So there was some pushback in Marx's theories or philosophy from a socialist that capital must not be looked upon as a material commodity. So your capital is not a commodity. It is a measurement, basically, as they're saying, or a condition to measure supply and demand, or determined, based on supply and demand. So capital is representing the condition based on the output of supply and demand, more so than it being looked at as a market commodity, a value to be obtained or ascertained to represent value. Continuing on, it says, guided by this corrected theory of capital, we shall learn that the removal of certain artificial obstacles due to private ownership of land and our irrational monetary system will enable our present economic order to realize fully its fundamentally sound principle. The removal of these obstacles will allow the workers, by their own labor, and in short time, 10 to 20 years, so to alter the market condition for capital that surplus value will disappear completely and the means of production will lose their capitalistic character. Private ownership of the means of production will then present no advantage beyond that which the owner of a saving box derives from its possession. The saving box does not yield him surplus value or interest, but he can gradually use up its contents. The savings or other money then invested in means of production, such as a house, ship, or some type of factory, will be returned to the owners in the shape of sums annually written off their value in proportion to their natural wear and tear or consumption. So they're proposing, take a quick pause right there to explain that. They're proposing that with that theory, it would only take 10 years or so, 10 to 20 years for things to change, for surplus value to lose its capitalistic meaning or character. So if capital starts to represent a market condition versus a market value, then the way that capital kind of dictates purchase price and value in an economy, to where you could buy houses, things like that we just mentioned, and instead of it being used as a means of a commodity to purchase other commodities, it'll solely be used as a measurement. So this is why they're saying the change, or this is why it's stating that the change from a savings box, or basically a savings account in a bank, will have no actual interest value or what they call surplus value to it. It'll just simply represent a measurement in the use of the wear and tear of the asset. All right, so we're going to continue on from there. Simply by means of untrampled hard work, fructified by the powerful modern instruments of production, the great admired and dreaded tyrant capital will be reduced to the harmless role of a child's porcelain savings box. So it clearly states that how we look at savings accounts will completely change. And this will be done in 10 to 20 years if we look at things different than how Karl Marx looked at things. So as we hear a lot of pushback that we don't live in a Marxist society or socialistic society, and there's a lot of pushback on that. If you look at the principles that's being stated about these things, you can clearly see the pieces of Marxism and the pieces of socialism that are involved in our economics philosophy today. Whether we say it's completely Marxism or not, that's a different case. But that's not brought up most of the time in the argument. So this source reference that we're going to be reading from is dealing with land and showing how agriculture and the building and mining industries can be carried on without surplus value, yet without communism. And then later parts of it are dealing with the new theory of capital, which we'll be discussing here, and show how, without nationalizing the remaining means of production, we can entirely eliminate surplus value from our economic order and establish the right to the whole proceeds of labor. So we're going to be diving deep into this concept, kind of tweaking it ourselves, because this source reference information, it has some age to it, and we have went through a lot of experiences, especially after the year 2012. We went through a lot of up-to-date economic changes, so we want to be up to date with that as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and jump into our link from last week. Let's see if it can bring you up now, John. Let's give it another try real quick. Yep, it's still doing it. I really wonder why it's doing that. All right, so let's get into our link from last week. Left off. Kind of give a recap. Well, did that a little bit earlier, but we went over the changes that came through the father of economics, which is Adam Smith, and how we got there through the philosophers of China, as well as the Greek philosophers and Egyptian and Babylonian scribes during their time, up to modern economics, which they called the father of modern economics, Adam Smith. We went over a bit of Karl Marx as well as Thomas Malthus' mindset on economics. We touched on the marginal revolution as well as the general equilibrium theory, which talks about speaking in numbers. now we're going to be moving into the next section called Knees and Macroeconomics. Put the link to that in the chat so you all can retrieve that. Right. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. So it states John Maynard Keynes developed a new branch of economics known as Keynesian economics or macroeconomics. Keynes styled the economists who had come before him as classical economists. He believed that while their theories might apply to individual choices in good markets, they did not adequately describe the operation of the economy as a whole. Instead of marginal units or even specific goods and markets, Keynesian macroeconomics presents the economy in terms of large-scale aggregates that represent the rate of unemployment, aggregate demand, or average price level inflation for all goods. Moreover, Keynes' theory says that government can be influential players in the economy, saving it from recession by implementing expansionary fiscal and monetary policy to increase economic output and stability. And so with that, we have today a whole global wide range of people who might just totally just disagree with that now, today, especially with how things kind of operate through the Federal Reserve and the issues that we've had with the Federal Reserve banking system and its fractionalized reserve banking. And more as we push through time here, we're going to see who really understand these principles by the way they behave in the economy. Because this is solely functioning on how you perceive the economic markets. Supply and demand. This is why business is created. Mainly, especially businesses that are purposeful because they're trying to meet a demand. So next we have the neoclassical synthesis, which states, by the mid-20th century, these two strands of thought, mathematical, marginalist, macroeconomics, and Keynesian marginalist microeconomics and Keynesian macroeconomics would rise to near complete dominance in the field of economics throughout the Western world. This became known as the neoclassical synthesis, which has since represented mainstream economic thought. It is taught in universities and practiced by researchers and policymakers with other perspectives labeled as heterodox economics. Within the neoclassical synthesis, various streams of economic thought have developed, sometimes in opposition to one another. The inherent tension between neoclassical microeconomics, which portrays free markets as efficient and beneficial, and Keynesian macroeconomics, which views markets as inherently prone to catastrophic failure, has led to persistent academic and public policy disagreements with different theories ascended at different times. So this is basically stating what I just said. So you have a lot of pushback now today, especially through academic pros of these theories, even hybrid theories that have developed along with the narrative. So this is why it's important for us to have recollection of these theories, how they work, and how they fit into the big piece or the bigger picture of things. This is why I say we have to take our part in participating as economists in this plight. All right, so continuing on, it states most prominent is monetarism and the Chicago school developed by Milton Friedman. Friedman or Friedman, really Friedman. I'm gonna pronounce that. Don't say Freeman, but you can say it like that. Which retains neoclassical microeconomics and the Keynesian macroeconomics framework, but shifts the emphasis of macroeconomics from fiscal policy, favored by Keynes, to monetary policy. Monetarism was widely espoused through the 1980s, 90s, and 2000s. Several different streams of economic theory and research have been proposed to resolve the tension between micro and macro economists. This attempt incorporates aspects or assumptions from microeconomics, such as rational expectations, into macroeconomics, or further develops microeconomics to provide micro foundations, such as price strictness or psychological factors, for Keynesian macroeconomics. In recent decades, this has led to new theories such as behavioral economics and to renewed interest in heterodox theories such as Austrian school economics, which were previously relegated to the economic backwaters, meaning many people forgot about or just left behind the Austrian school of economics. So this is why today the two main schools are Austrian economics philosophy and Keynesian economic philosophy. So we're going to dive a little bit into the Austrian school of economics, get into some of its founders, its key ideals and insights real quick. And then we'll be jumping our way back to this timeline. But what is the Austrian school of economics? It states, if you carry the popular impression that data-hungry economists are always busy with complex formulas and not with outside-the-box thinking, then you should take a look at the Austrian school. Just like monks living in their monasteries, the economists of this school strive to solve complex issues, economic ones, by conducting thought experiments. The Austrian school believes it is possible to discover the truth simply by thinking out loud. Interestingly, this group does have unique insights into some of the most important economic issues of our times. So we're going to read on, as I say, to find out how the Austrian school of economics has evolved, where it stands in the world of economic thought. So the takeaways here are Karl Menger, an Austrian economist. He wrote The Principles of Economics in 1871, which is considered by many to be the founder of the Austrian School of Economics. Then we have the key ideals of the Austrian school that have evolved over the years through the input of various economies. And other than Karl Marx, the Austrian school include names like Ludwig von Mises, Eugene von Böhm-Bawerk, and Friedrich Hayek. The Austrian school uses logic of a priori thinking to discover economic laws of universal application, whereas other mainstream schools of economics make use of data and mathematical models. So the key principle in Austrian economics and how they look at things is, how does this work universally for everyone? So like I said, even in American schools of economics, the main concept is, in the first principle of economics, in any college or university that you go to should be conveying this the same way. But from what I've done my research on personally is that you have the first key point is what is good for one, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So continuing, it says the early concepts of the Austrian school contributed significantly to the theory of diminishing marginal utility. So we can get into that some more later, which I'm sure is going to come back up here. So it states, what we know today as the Austrian School of Economics was not made in a day. This school has gone through years of evolution in which the wisdom of one generation was passed on to the next. Though the school has progressed and incorporated knowledge from outside sources, the core principles remain the same. Karl Menger, an Austrian economist who wrote Principles of Economics in 1871, is considered by many to be the founder of the Austrian school. The title of Menger's book suggests nothing extraordinary, but its contents became one of the pillars of the marginalism revolution. So you kind of get into the Austrian side of things when you start looking in microeconomics and marginalization concepts, because this is where these concepts is coming from. So it does have some insight on diminishing marginal utility, so we're gonna jump into that. So it's a law. Diminishing marginal utility is a law, an economic law that states that all else being equal, as consumption increases, the satisfaction derived from each additional unit decreases. So the more you consume that thing, it becomes saturated, basically. That's what that's getting at. So the marginal value decreases the more a thing is consumed, basically. So it says later on, Lawiy, pronouncing it right, von Mises, another great thinker of the Austrian school, applied the theory of marginal utility to money in his book, Theory of Money and Credit, in 1912. The theory of diminishing marginal utility of money may in fact help us in finding an answer to one of the most basic questions of economics. How much money is too much? Here also, the answer would be subjective. One more extra dollar in the hands of a billionaire would hardly make any difference, although the same dollar would be invaluable in the hands of a pauper, or poor, which means poor person. Other than Karl Menger and Lawiy von Mises, the Austrian school also includes other big names like Eugene von Baumgarten, Friedrich Hayek, and many others. Today's Austrian school is not confined to Vienna. Its influence spreads across the world. Over the years, the basic principles of the Austrian school have given rise to valuable insights into numerous economic issues like the laws of supply and demand, the cause of inflation, the theory of money creation, and the operation of foreign exchange rates. On each of the issues, the views of the Austrian school tend to differ from other schools of economics. In the following sections, you can explore some of the main ideals of the Austrian school and their differences with other schools of economics. So this next section goes into how they differ. So I'll just read out the titles instead of go in depth to the content. So that's one main difference is the economic laws of universal application, capital goods, and how they see it. It's not homogeneous. Interest rates, which the Austrian school rejects or disagrees with the classical view of capital. The effects of inflation, which the Austrian school believes any increase in the money supply not supported by an increase in the production of goods and services leads to an increase in prices, but the prices of all goods do not increase simultaneously. And business cycles, which they believe are caused by distortion in interest rate due to the government's attempt to control money, so monetary policy. And market creation, which they view that the market mechanism is a process and not an outcome of a design, like utilizing of a mathematical model. So they look at that different. And strategies to help investment taxes, they look at that different. Your bottom line, which is basically the profits, if I'm understanding that correctly. So Austrian is more based on verbal logic, basically, is what they're saying, or philosophy and philosophical prose versus more of mathematical model. So it's based on more of universal principles, as it states. So let's get back to our next section, which is behavioral economics, which is a part of the neoclassical section of economics, which states classical economic theory and theory of markets from Smith to Friedman have mainly rested on the assumption that consumers are rational characters who behave in their best interest. So the theory is that consumers are smart and they behave smartly in their own best interest. So market participants are going to do what's best for themselves, not the market or the people involved. So we have current economists such as Richard Thaler and Daniel Kahneman and Gary Becker and Amos Tversky, which have shown that people often do not act in their own best material interest, but allow themselves to be swayed by non-material psychological factors and biases. So this is what makes up behavioral economics, which they state has helped popularize several new concepts that make economic modeling and forecasting more difficult than ever. So you have these concepts: the sunk cost fallacy, availability heuristics, and bounded rationality. So you have those three concepts that fall within behavioral economics. So this next section is discussing the social benefits So it states a rising cohort of economists have emphasized the importance of factoring in inequalities in income distribution and social well-being when measuring the success of a given economic policy. Preeminent among them is Anthony Atkinson, who was born in 1944 and died in the year 2017, who focused on income redistribution within a given country. Also highly regarded and noteworthy is Amartya Sen, a professor of economics and philosophy at Harvard University, whose work on global inequality won him the Nobel Prize for Economics in 1998. Sen's work is also notable for reintroducing ethical behavior into his analysis. This concern ties Sen's thinking back to the writing of the earliest economic thinkers who saw overaccumulation of wealth by individuals or groups as ultimately harmful to society. So this is why, once again, I'm stating that we need to touch on these key factors and key points and become participants in the world of economic thought. So, getting closer to the conclusion, what is economics and its history? Economics is the science and study of a society's ability to produce goods and services, buy and sell them, and consume them. Documentation, theories, and discussions go back thousands of years. So, who is the ancient father of economics? And why isn't there any respect or acknowledgement given to the indigenous people who are the progenitors of the school of thought? If we are going to acknowledge that it goes back thousands of years, if not millions of years. So who invented economics first? The next portion here. It states that there is no one person that invented economics. Instead, many notable thinkers and societies throughout history have contributed to the field of economics, such as the Nucratic Society and our Assyrian School of Economics, which is based on natural economic order. And getting into those fields, those formulas, whether we're speaking in numbers or we're speaking in verbal proses, philosophical proses. And so this is why I state that we have to respect the work that was done by the Prophet Zabuwr and understanding the things that he called out for, and really look into what was the Prophet's thinking on economics. What was his insight and foresight on how we should behave economically as a community, as a people, as a sovereign theocratic government. So the next section is, when did the economic history start? So it states that modern economics is attributed to Adam Smith, who published The Wealth of Nations in 1776. However, the practices and ideals that led to Smith's paper were developed over centuries of discussions and ideals around the globe. Once again, who are those indigenous progenitors? So the conclusion is, economic theory grew out of society's need to account for resources, plan for the future, and exchange and allocate goods. Over time, these basic accounting tools grew into increasingly complex financial models, blending the mathematics required to calculate compound interest with ethics and moral philosophy. Economics as a system to understand and control the material world and mitigate risk emerged and evolved across the globe in a staggered fashion. The Fertile Crescent in Egypt, China, and India, ancient Greece, and the Arab world. As societies grew wealthier and trade grew more complex, economic theory turned to the mathematics, statistics, and computational modeling that economists use to help guide policymakers. The business cycle, booms and busts, anti-inflation measures, and mortgage interest rates are outgrowths of economics. Understanding them helps the market and government adjust for these variables. Balancing out the mathematical modeling approach is the study of factors that are more difficult to quantify but crucial to understand. Most notably, the foibles and unpredictability of human psychology. So, this is why I say we have to put our new logical thinking caps on, especially as we get into the field of economics here, because it is very, very pertinent that we understand our position as indigenous peoples in economics. Does economics actually come from just the first forms of economics? Come from other planets, higher intelligences? What true sources of references that we can really get into? Who does the Asarian school of economics deem as the ancient father of economics? These are the type of things that we'll be discussing and diving into with our own school of economics based on Nucratic philosophy, true light philosophy, natural philosophy. But you want to have a starting point. You want to have a source referencing point that gets the thought going, gets the flow going, gets the conversation started. And we have to have the conversation. We have to have the conversation. So I'm going to put the etymology of the word economy in the chat. That way you guys have it. And from what I'm seeing so far, it says that the etymology of economy means house management or management of the house. From Okos, Nemin. Nemin means manage. Okonomia, household management. Managing the house. So I'm gonna put the Wikipedia link in the chat. Like I say, this conversation is a conversation that needs to be had. And we get into it. Yeah, you're right about that, Jonathan. Old English terms too. Let's see if we can bring you up now. Still can't bring you up. It's not. All right, so portion out tonight with some words from the prophet. Because, like I say, we got to have the conversation. We got to get into it. And more, we're going to be discussing the natural economic order of things and getting more into the text behind it. We're not going to turn this into a school economics class, but we will most definitely be touching on the economy. And we're going to dive into the spiritual economy as well. Because this is actually the source of the verbal ideologies that are posed by the Austrian school. So you can kind of see where the Austrian school is getting its understanding from a more old school philosophy of things. How things work in natural abstract formulas. So we're going to touch on that as well. Definitely going to get into that. So we're going to touch on chapter 35, which is the holy instructions from the prophet about religion. Because like I say, your religion is your government. So we want to make sure we reiterate this again. And we read over this also when we got a visit from temple number 14 this past week. And we chimed in to them during our series. And they read also from this chapter. So we're going to read this chapter again because we have to reiterate the point. So the ayats read, there is but one Allah, the author, the creator, the governor of the world, almighty, eternal, and incomprehensible. The Son is not Allah, though his noblest image. He enlightened the world with his brightness. His warmth it giveth it life to the products of the earth. Admire him as the creature, the instrument of Allah, but worship him not. To the one who is supreme, most wise and beneficent, and to him alone belongs worship, adoration, thanksgiving, and praise. Who has stretched forth the heavens with his hands? Who had described with his fingers the courses of stars? Who setteth it bounds to the ocean, that it cannot pass? And say it unto the stormy winds, be still. Who shaketh it, the earth, and the nations tremble? Who dareth it his lightnings, and the wicked are dismayed? Who calleth it forth worlds by the words of his mouth? Who smiteth it with his arm, and they sink into nothing? O reverence the majesty of the omnipotent, and tempt not his anger, lest thou be destroyed. The providence of Allah is ever all his works. He ruleth it and directeth it with infinite wisdom. He had instituted laws for the government of the world. He had wonderfully varied them in all beings, and each by his nature conformeth it to his will. In the depth of his mind, he revolveth it all knowledge. The secrets of futurity lie open before him. The thoughts of thy heart are naked to his view. He knoweth it, thy determination before they are made. With respect to his prescience, there is nothing contingent. With respect to his providence, there is nothing accidental. Wonderful is he in all his ways. His counsels are inscrutable. The manner of his knowledge transcended thy conception. Pay therefore to his wisdom all honor and veneration, and bow down thyself in humble and submissive obedience to his supreme discretion. The Father is gracious and beneficent. He had created the world in mercy and love. His creatures of his hand declare his goodness, and their enjoyment speak of his praise. He clothed them with beauty. He supported them with food. He preserved them with pleasure from generation to generation. If we lift up our eyes to the heavens, his glory shineth it forth. If we cast them down on the earth, it is full of his goodness. The hills and the valleys rejoice and sing. Fields, rivers, and woods resound his praise. But thee he had distinguished with peculiar favor and exalted thy station above all creatures. But thee he had imbued thee with reason to maintain thy dominion. He had fitted thee with language to improve thy society, and exalted thy mind with the powers of meditation to contemplate and adore his inimitable perfections. And in the laws he had ordained as the rule of life, so kindly had he united thy duty to thy nature, that obedience to his precepts is happiness to thyself. O praise his goodness with songs of thanksgiving, and meditate in silence on the wonders of his love. Let thy heart overflow with gratitude and acknowledgement. Let the language of thy lips speak praise and adoration. Let the actions of thy life show thy love to his law. Allah is just and righteous, and will judge the earth with equity and truth. He had established his laws in goodness and mercy, and shall he not punish the transgressors thereof? O think not, bold man, because thy punishment is delayed, that the arm of Allah is weakened. Neither flatter thyself with hopes that he winketh it at thy doings. His eye pierceth it, the secrets of every heart, and remembereth it them forever. He respecteth it not, the persons or the stations of men, the high and the low, the rich and the poor, the wise and the ignorant. When the soul had shaken off the cumbrous shackles of this mortal life, shall equality receive from the sentence of just and everlasting retribution according to their works. Then shall the wicked tremble and be afraid, but the heart of the righteous shall rejoice in his judgments. O fear Allah, therefore, all the days of thy life, and walk in the paths which he had opened before thee. Let prudence admonish thee. Let temperance restrain. Let justice guide thy hand. Benevolence warm thy heart, and gratitude to heaven inspire thee with devotion. These shall give thee happiness in thy present state, and bring thee to the mansions of eternal felicity in the paradise of Allah. This is the true economy of human life. Peace. Oh man, I'm glad you're here, Brother Brian, because we've been waiting on you. Now we can I'm gonna mod you up, Brother Brian, so you can bring up Brother Jonathan at the bottom. We had an issue earlier with the app. Happy holiday, bro. Yeah, I'm sending you the invite, Noble. I don't know if it's getting to you. You should be able to come up. Yeah, it's doing the same thing for you. Well, you should see the invite. I don't know if you got it. I'm having some issues on my end. It usually just pop you on top in the room. I don't know what's going on. I can't leave because it'll shut down the room. Well, I'm not too sure because I know got no speakers on stage, it really don't keep the room open, from what I know. But I don't want to attempt it because we will be losing our progress here. But let me know if you see the invite. It say I already invited you, so I don't know if they block it. You mean after we done with today's sermon, we want to do a test? If it'll leave the chat open if someone leave the room, we can do that, Jonathan. Okay, I got you. Yeah, we'll do that. But happy holy day, Noble Brian. Hope all is well. True peace. I don't know if you can hear me, Noble. But true peace, true peace. Hope you're enjoying your holy day. Today is a very powerful day, so I gotta make sure I get these replays up for y'all. This is another very insightful session that we're having today in our series of while we are in our series of economics, God's economics, the economics of life, natural economic order. So we had to read that chapter because, like I say, it sets the tone for everything we have went over and the things we have been discussing about economics and having that everyday conversation. But as you see, the premises for economics is how we look at our divine nature, our divine creator, how we look at the images and the likenesses that surrounds us every day through nature, how we treat it, our behavior. This is what economics is the science of. So we're going to be getting into some real key things and most definitely coming back to this series more so than often, because we actually have some text that we're going to start putting out that goes along with our school of economics, as I mentioned, and we'll continue to be mentioning from here on out with this proper introduction of it and our sermon and lecture for this week. But y'all want to get used to those terms. Get used to the term Asarian economics, natural economic order. Get used to those terms. This is where the concept neo comes in. It's natural economical order, natural ethereal order, the Nucratic society. You can say Nucratic economic order. It's the same thing. Those words are basically somewhat interchangeable. Remember the divine creator, which is nature itself. As they say in ancient Egypt, Natir, Natiru, Natir Shir Natir, the nature of nature, which is the economics of life, the economics of nature. So, go ahead and do a quick room reset. Welcome to the World Temple Branch Temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed that they may learn to love instead of hate. Come link yourself with the family of nations by clicking that block of words at the top that says World Temple and join us. Come learn to love instead of hate. With that, y'all, we're going to dive into our next segment here, which is current events. And we really don't have nobody on stage tonight for current events because we have some technical difficulty tonight. So bear with us. I need my people from YouTube that's waiting on the uploads to bear with us as well. We got a boatload of things we taking care of. Yeah, if you can hear me, Brother Brown, all you gotta do is accept the invite and come on up. I'm not sure why it's not letting. Oh, you can make it limited to those followed by the speaker. I didn't know that. I like that. All right, so yeah, we're gonna get into our next segment, which is current events and our weekly reading of El's Holy Qur'an for tonight's khutbah, and getting into the messages that come from there as well. So we're gonna jump right on in to the Holy Qur'an, El's Holy Qur'an. And as we go on week to week and we continue to read front to back El's Holy Qur'an, we notice the messages aligns with the khutbah or the sermon for that night. And we're going to continue to create that momentum and alignment as we continue to go on here every week. Like I say all the time, a lot of this is not pre-planned or any of that. We're moving off spirit, what spirit wants us to touch on. I ain't looking at the stars and the moon and the zodiacs. Getting into the astrologies and pre-planning things. Not doing that. Just going based off what spirit tells us and what comes to mind. We jump right on in. All right, y'all. So we're gonna jump into chapter 26. If I'm not mistaken, we read chapter 25 and 26 last week. Yeah, I think we read chapter 25 last week, so we're gonna pick up this week with H.I.M, the sun, chapter 26, which got changed to chapter 91 in the mistranslations of the Qur'an, the Noble Qur'an, and the other translations. So y'all know how it go. We begin our prayers and thinking by using the source, by using the name of the source, Allah, the Rahman, who is the most merciful. All right. The commentary states the sun in its radiance, the Nahar is brightened by it, the Lul screens it, and Ma'a, what built the sky. Allah, Al-Ham, the spirit to overstand is Fajur. He who has purifies his spirit will be prosperous. Tamud called Salih a liar. Tamud raised Jinda ibn Umar to kill the she camel. They slaughtered it. Allah crushed them for their zamb and leveled Thamud. Allah doesn't fear the uqba of such a destruction. All right, in the ayat to read, the Shams or suns and its duha, radiance, and the Qamar, moon, when it follows after it, and the Nahar, daytime, afternoon, when it is brightened by it, and by the Lul, shadow hour period, when it screens it, and Al Sama'a, the sky, and Ma'a, what built it, and the Qui, or Tiamat, planet Earth, and Ma'a, what landscaped it, and the Nafs, spirit or person, and Ma'a, what Sawa, perfected it. So he, not we, Alhamah, inspired it, the spirit to overstand its fujur, wickedness, and its trembling at the mention. He who purifies it, meaning his spirit, has certainly become afla, prosperous, and certainly he who Kaaba buries it, his spirit, has certainly failed. Because of the Damud, excessive transgressions, they called him Salih, a Kazib, liar. When they, the Enosites of Thamud, raised up back to life amongst themselves, the Ashka, most wretched leader, Jinda ibn Umar, to kill the she-camel. So Allah's Rasul, Salih, said to them, do not harm Allah's al-Na'akat, she-camel. Leave her to water and Sukya, graze. But they Enosites of Thamud called the one sent, Salih, a liar, and slaughtered the she-camel. So their sustainer, who was Rab, crushed them for their zam, guilty act, and leveled it, Thamud. And he does not fear the Uqba, consequences of such a destruction. Zodok al-Azim. So we're going to read chapter 27, just because the fact that I said we're not looking into the zodiac, which in Arabic is Baruj. That's how you say that, Al-Baruj, the zodiac. We're not looking into the stars of the zodiac to base what we're doing on. So we're going to get into chapter 27, which was changed in the mistranslation to chapter 85. As y'all know, we begin our prayers and thinking by using the name of the source, Allah the Rahman, who is the most merciful. And the commentary reads, the heavenly skies is the source of Al-Baruj. The source is the watcher. The Hu Nawas killed the faithful. To Allah belongs the rulership of the Samawat and Qui. Those who persecute the faithful men and women will have pain of Jahannam. So the ayats read, let's make sure we ain't getting into an extra long chapter here. Yeah, all right, so cool. So the ayats read, Al-Sama'a, the heavenly skies, the possessor, source of the signs of Al-Baruj, the zodiac. Al-Baruj is Nibiru. And by Al-Ma'ud, the promised day, the day of its return, and the watcher or astronomer, and that which is Mashhud, watched, which is Nibiru, the companions of the pits, the king of Yemen, Duhu Nawas, the last Himyarite, king of Yemen, and his kindred, killed the faithful for making pits. The kindling of the fuel which burnt the Enosites of Najran and forced them to renounce their faith. When the king of Yemen, Duhu Nawas, and his Enosites squatted around it, the fires, and they were shahud, watched of what they did. Torture to the Mu'mineen, faithful Enosites of Najran, and they, king of Yemen, Duhu Nawas, and his Enosites, only tortured them because they were faithful to Al-Aziz, the mighty source, Allah, the one who all gratitude is due to him, not we. To him, not we, who belongs rulership of the Samawat, skies, and the planet Earth, also called Tiamat, Qui, and Al-Ard. And Allah is a Shaheed, watcher over all things. Surely those who persecuted the faithful men and faithful women and then did not repent, for them will be the pain of Jahannam, purgatory, and for them there is the torture of burning pain on their skins. So the next section of commentary states, those who work to perfect themselves, there are Jannat for them. The Batsha of your Rab is Shadid. Yahuwah begins everything and is the Ghafur. He is the possessor of the throne. Has not the hadiths come to you? The source encompasses them on every side. The glorious Qur'an is in a guarded law. Surely there are Jannat beneath which rivers flow. This is the ayats, I'm sorry, I'm jumping into the ayats now. Surely there are Jannat beneath them, beneath which rivers flow, for those who are faithful and work to perfect their beings themselves. That is the great Al-Fas achievement. Inna, surely the Basha, grip of your Rab, sustainer, verily is terribly Shadid, forceful. Surely he not we, begins or creates everything and has the power to bring everything back to life. And he is Al-Ghafur, the forgiver, Al-Wadud, the compassionate, the possessor of Al-Arsh, Al-Majid, the throne of glory. He does what he wants. He has the hadith, tales of Al-Janud. The armies come to you. I'm sorry, has not the hadith or tales of Al-Janud, the armies, come to you, of Pharaoh and Thamud? In fact, those who conceal what they know to be true are only liars, and the source, Allah, encompasses them on every side. In fact, it is a glorious Qur'an and a guarded tablet as Enuma Elish. Zodok El Azim. All right, y'all. So we're gonna stop right there. We're gonna touch on chapter 25, well, chapter 26, called the Sun, which we just read that is the noblest image of the Most High, Al-Shams, the Sun. So, as it states, in chapter 26, we see that we're pointing back to economics again, because those in the Talmud or Thamud or Terah, which is the father of Abraham, and during that time of Prophet Selah, you had the she camel, the sacred camel. They was told not to kill the camel because the camel provides sustenance to the people. Don't kill this sacred animal. But then you had someone come up and say, well, hey, we need to slaughter and eat the animal. But this animal was producing all the sustenance that you needed in the community. Right? So we coming right back to the same point and principle that we've been talking about this whole time. This is why I say we're not going based on the zodiacs. We're not going based on the zodiac. We're going based on the spirit, how the divine source moves us, upon with the Allah, how the source moves us. So we're right back to that principle, because the zodiac, as they call it, the stars, the ships, the planets, the Nibiru's, they're watchers, watching how you react to the divine commandments that are being channeled down through the source. Are you being faithful to the season? Through the times, through the messages, through the ordinance, the statutes, the codes. A lot of our people miss this. A lot of people are tricked into renouncing their faith when they get into becoming wealthy. This is why we reiterated that past week that, hey, religion and spirituality go together. Religion represents the work of your spirituality. It's just simple and plain. Well, I ain't religious. But then you really ain't spiritual. Because faith without work is dead. It's just that simple. So you have those that have been persecuted for being in tune with the spirit. Now we're at the point to where those that used to be considered conspiracy theorists are no longer the conspiracy theorists. The people who had the tinfoil hat mentality walking around, considered conspiracy theorists, they not the conspiracy theorists now. It's the persecutors that are the conspiracy theorists, because they're coming up with conspiracies to persecute you for namesake. The stories of the times tell you this. The signs of the time tell you this. These are where you pay attention to the signs, like the lights, the signs on the road, stop, go. We're not just going based off of the directions of the road. Those are guiding posts, so you know where you at. But we're moving on the spirit. We're trying to get to the watcher, trying to get back to the bosom of the watcher. So chapter 27 and 25 touches on us being raised up and getting back in our right mind. Those who work to perfect themselves. So we have to know how to flip these words we've been branded with, because hurt people, and 9 times out of 10, if they talking crazy about you, they really talking about themselves. So don't harm, don't destroy, don't kill that which you were blessed with, especially to fuel you economically, to help you economically in your community. This is what these natural resources is about. This is what this science and this knowledge is about. So this is why I say I love how every week the messages that we read here together in these holy Quran readings, how they align with the Kupa, the message for the week. It's just perfect symmetry. I'm sorry. Not symmetry. Symmetry. Perfect symmetry. But this is why we should be getting into reading those holy tablets, those ancient tablets, because this is what the Quran is a part of. It's a part of the story. It's a part of the sacred record. We understand that a lot of what people dismiss in the religious factors of things, especially the stories, the books, the names, which have been mistranslated, rewrote, interpolated, exaggerated, etc., is still coming from the record of the mother books, the mother scriptures, the scriptures that was wrote down by the original ancient Egyptian scribes, those accounts, those records. Like we just got into these past couple weeks. It's the economics is describing to you the setting of the times. This is what economics give you. In English class, or in your class for studying literature, they called it a setting in a story, in a narrative. That's a form of that's basic economics. Now that's being told in models and formulas and numbers. We told it through ancient records and repetitious accounts of those records. The signs, the story of the stars, the message of the stars. Islam. So we're gonna close out with that, y'all, for this week. Islam. We're gonna jump into our holy instructions. So I'm about to change the link at the top of the room, so that way we can get into our instructions for tonight. But we have a lot of powerful things that we should be getting into, especially with the school that we have. We have our own school district. We have our own political party. We have our own monetary system and philosophy. Asarian economics. We have our own economic order based on nature. So when they ask you all, well, what is the Nomni? Nomni is a weighted index of all of the currencies that have been issued globally for a global village, for people, for communities, nations, kingdoms of the global village. Trade your Nomni against the index instrument, similar to the dollar and the dollar index, which is based on the weight of the 5 main supranational countries. Europe, Japan. Not Japan, but Europe and China. And the other currencies. You can look up what the dollar index is. I'm gonna put a link in the chat for y'all real quick, so y'all know what it is. Because they ask, what is the nominee? Well, you can explain it to them. It's a basket of global currencies, world currencies. We call it world currency. It's the name for all of our instruments that we issue for communities of the future, for the global village. What is the benchmark? The dollar index. In the form of a Bitcoin smart contract. So we have our own macroeconomics, our own measurements for money, M1, M0, all the way down to dealing with Bitcoin. We have our Saurian School of Economics, which will be publishing our first book, our first thesis and books on here soon. And this is going to be globally distributed. But this is going to be works that our children, our people in the future could build on. We have our own scientific school of thought, Nulogy, our own genre that originated with us as a people. This all ties into your global and ancient and divine inheritance. But you have to see it. I can't make you see it. I can't see it for you. You have to see the work that's been put in effect, into operation. You have to be able to explain that simply in practical means to the next person. I'm not here to do it for you. Islamicism is the actions, the ways of peace. There's no Islamicism without Islam. But we're talking about the ancient submission to the divine will. The ancient submission, going back to the ancient ones, the Elohim. Not the made up modern day version of Deen Islam. And how they try to dictate to you how to practice Islamicism. Islam. And there's much more that has been put into the works, but we got to take this serious. We need to clean up our image. This is why I say we got to create firms, real companies that affect pieces of the market share of the market, and really understand what we're doing. It's okay to want to leave a legacy for your family, wealth for your family. But if that's not built up on the principles of the divine source, the universal principles of the divine source, the divine nature, as a part of the all we succeed in as individuals, we fail. We fail. As we read past couple weeks ago about the wealth of Mugoria, that wealth is not going to be brought into the future. That type of wealth, that type of economic philosophy won't be of economic value in the future. That won't be of value in the future. But what will? The things that we're discussing now, principles, philosophies, systems based on mutualism with nature, equalism with nature, and equity with nature, and submission to nature, Islam, to the will of divine nature, which is Nucratic. Nucratic thinking, new logical way of thinking. Putting on your new logical thinking cap. So let's go ahead and dive into our holy instructions for tonight, y'all. So y'all can go ahead and get comfortable with your families in the night with your families. I don't want to keep y'all here too late. And enjoy y'all Saturday, y'all family day. But this is going to be one for the replays right here. Even though we started 20 minutes late, it's going to be one for the replays. But you can click the link at the top if you want to join me. Like I said, I'm going to start putting the link in the YouTube description so that way y'all can follow along too as well when it's time to click that particular link. And as it states, civics or civic education is the study of the theoretical, political, and practical aspects of citizenship, as well as its rights and duties. It includes the study of civil law and civil code, and the study of government with the attention to the role of world citizens as opposed to external factors in the operation of the government. So this is what we go over here every Friday, and especially on Sundays for the newcomers gathering. This is what newcomers gathering is about. It's about teaching civics. Those civic lessons. We're supposed to have law classes during our weekly tribunal. We need the assistance of our people to come in, take this serious, contribute, invest in. We are a force to be reckoned with. Everywhere a moral go, that place, or a peacemaker goes, that place becomes a temple. So we should be able to connect with anybody, any faith, any religion, any culture across the world. Islam. So we went over our civic virtues, which is the cultivation of habits and the importance of the success for our community based on those habits, which we touched on tonight with economics. So we also went over civic engagement, how we are to come together to discuss these actions by way of economics, doing it and getting involved in the world of economic thought. We got to participate. We got to get involved. It is our responsibility, our spiritual duty to do such. All right. So, as you know, Friday is the holy day. Oh, you who know, when the call is proclaimed to supplication on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of the Heavenly Father and Divine Mother, and leave off business and traffic. That is best for you if you but knew. And when prayer is finished, then may ye disperse through the land and seek the bounty of God, and celebrate the praises of God of 10, and without stint, that ye may prosper. All chaplaincy, temple services, and meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7, and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is our holy day for all Muslims and peacemakers all over the world. This is according to Act 2 of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which states all temples and subordinate temples are to conduct Holy Day service every Friday, starting promptly at their respective time and ending promptly at their respective time. All civilians, patrons, denizens, prospects, and ministers are expected to attend the temple for the Friday Holy Day temple service and meeting. On Fridays, the Moorish American, Moorish Asian, and Moorish African Muslims and peacemakers all come together to supplicate and to illustrate that which Allah has blessed them with. The temple services are open according to divine love, true peace, freedom, and justice. At no time will templates, adepts, ministers, patrons, or outside congregational guests be allowed to disrupt the Holy Day service, nor will civilians be admitted under the influence of alcohol or any severe intoxicants. All templates, adepts, and civilians attending the Holy Day service must have their heads covered with either a turban, a fez, or kufi, or spiritual cover. Baseball caps should not be worn in the temple or during temple service. The Sunday school temple service and meeting is mandatory, and all Moorish national templates and temple denizens must promptly attend the temple service and send their children to the Sunday school gatherings. The teacher must conform himself and herself to the Temple 101's questionnaire, and let every civilian man, woman, and child exercise his or her 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guidance of the nation, and now the entire village. According to Act 5 of the additional laws by the Prophet Zabuwr, every subordinate temple should have 2 Sunday school gatherings held. The first meeting should be held 1 to 2 hours before the adult service. Children's Sunday School should be conducted by a director of the Children's Sunday School and programs. The Sunday School gathering is designed to assist the temple in learning the Temple 101 questionnaire and developing an understanding of just what these holy keys mean and how they are to be applied to our everyday lives. The Divine Constitution and bylaws, along with the Moorish prayer and the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nations, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'aan, and the civic editions or lessons of the Holy Temple of Moorish Science are also subjects of major concern for the apprentice who is trying to complete his or her mandatory requirements for pronouncing their temple civilianship and global nationality. All lessons for the adult Sunday school gathering must be prepared by a Grand Sheik, a divine minister, or an assistant Grand Sheik. Lessons called by us novites additions may be submitted to the apprentice for completion and returned to the temple. Once the lessons are completed and graded, they must be placed in the active members' temple district file. The Sunday school temple service and meeting is a wonderful opportunity to study the liturgy teachings of the prophet. No civilian is to become disruptive during the Sunday meeting. All templars must bring paper and pen to the temple service and meeting, along with the basic temple literature and assignments. No templars or patron is to eat food or other snacks during the temple service or meeting, but water is permitted. All templars must attend their Sunday temple service and meeting as diligently as they attend their Holy Day temple service and meeting. Both were called out for by the Prophet Zabuwr and is required as a matter of temple law. According to the Divine Constitution Act 7 in part, all templars must promptly attend their temple services and meeting and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and now also Moorish Science Temple of Africa and Moorish Science Temple of Asia, and enjoying the World Islands on behalf of all indigenous peoples. For membership, any heads of temple of all temple jurisdictions are not to charge for naturalization or to overcharge for cards, buttons, or anything issued by and through the prophet. Those who contribute to any of the proceedings are not Moors, civilians, or patrons, but robbers. Temple nationality and membership in the Holy Temple's vast estate and public beneficiary trust, sisters and brothers, kin and kinfolk, is free. Not only here, but all over the world. All kin and kinfolk desiring to become a civilian of a subordinate temple must follow these instructions from the temple secretary and acquire the application for naturalization, which can be found on a link that we had pinned at the top of the room just earlier, called holytemples.org. The Secretary of the Temple's jurisdiction will help all newcomers by explaining the naturalization affidavit and application for membership in the Temple's vast estate, or what we call a public beneficiary trust, to the new prospective civilians of the Temple's vast estate and public beneficiary trust, and arranging for him or her to be consulted by the Royal Council of said temple or subordinate temple. The Royal Chairman or woman will set the date for the new temple prospect to be interviewed by the Royal Council. The new temple court civilian, upon completion of the Royal Council's consultation at the newcomers' gathering, Sunday school gathering on Sunday, the new templist will proclaim their temple nationality at the next upcoming Holy Day temple gathering. After the new civilian prospect proclaims his or her nationality, they will be given the mandatory requirements necessary to earn their free national name and royal title of nobility as a true American royal. These requirements are as follows, and in accordance with Chapter 47 of the Moorish Holy Quran, called Egypt the capital domain of the Empire of Africa, chapter 25 of the Moorish Qur'an, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, the Moorish Prayer, including the one-on-one Quran questions for Moorish Americans, Asians, and Africans, the Divine Constitution and bylaws, the additional laws, and the precepts, statutes, and ordinances from El's Holy Torah, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'an, the Family Guide, and also Holy Tablets. Through our Civics 101 course in the Global Interdependent School District and Sacred Halls of Learning, which is called New University by us of the Holy Temples of Moorish Science for everyone of the global village. Once a new civilian of templates has learned these additions or lessons verbatim or to the best of their ability, he or she will be interviewed by the Temple's Royal Council as the chaplaincy to determine if the new civilian is qualified to represent himself or herself as a faithful Moorish American, Moorish African, and Moorish Asian Muslim, or in any indigenous peacemaker, and communicated to the ignorant for their instructions, and communicated to the wise for thine own improvement. Once the new civilian of templates has cleared the mandatory requirements with the Royal Council, he or she will be naturalized by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister of said subordinate temple. So no status correction verbiage and sovereign citizen verbiage, even though that term is somewhat starting to be respected, I'm seeing now in certain jurisdictions, it's still, until there's some actual lawful acknowledgement from multiple states, it still has a derogatory essence to it, or presence to it, and how people use it in a derogatory way. But like I said, until there's more states using it in a more proper way, then it will still carry that derogatory status to it. So let's go ahead and continue with our Holy Shahada, y'all, which is basically the proclamation of nationality procedure, where one's pronunciation of their nationality happens, and it will be held on Holy Day for all civilians, denizens, templates, peacemakers, or Muslims all over the world. During the ceremony, the new civilian of templates will be ordained in El Bay or Day and given his or her royal peerage title of King, Honorable, Lady, Noble, Nin, Nanya, Prince, or Princess by a Grand Sheik and or Divine Minister, and also receive his or her nationality card and button from the Divine Minister of the Grand Major Temple. Upon conclusion of the nationality proclamation, the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister will have the civilian, templates, and temple prospect stand while he or she reads the authority of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is by virtue of the Religious Corporation Act document that can be found in Hers Revised Statutes that gives the Moorish Science Temple of America, Asia, and Africa the authority to restore the nationality and birthrights of the lost Asiatics of America, Asia, Africa, and all world islands, and give them the title to their vast estate and their heritage. The Grand Sheik and or Divine Minister is to read from the card and have the new national state, Allah's God, and Noble Ali the Prophet. And I am Moorish American, African, or Asian, and or world islander. This is our Moorish clarification of faith for Shahada and our national pledge of allegiance. The new civilian of template's free national name should then be added to the Temple's Book of Life as they enroll in the Civics 101 course and our complimentary World Civics Club. The nationality ceremony should be conducted by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister or any other Divine Minister so designated by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister in his or her time of absence, and most notably by the Assistant Grand Sheik and Divine Minister. The nationality card and naturalization application must be signed bearing the name and title of the Grand Sheik or Divine Minister who issued the application and card and the date of its issuance. The Religious Corporation Act has deemed the Global Interdependent School District and the Incorporated and Chartered Moorish Science Temple of America, Africa, and Asia as a religious trust and theocratic government established in 1928 on August 20th. This religious trust is the true global trusteeship system for the Holy Family of Nations, forming the global numeracy. Right, y'all, Islam. So we're going to get into our mandatory literature from the Prophet, messages from the Prophet. And we're going to take it on home. We really won't have no contributions because we don't have no one on stage because of technical difficulties. After that, we're going to close it out with the prayer. And y'all enjoy the rest of y'all weekend and holy day. All right, y'all. So let's get into this literature. So first thing first, I want to go ahead and read the message from the prophet to the members of the Moorish Temple of America. These are instructions from the prophet as well. Islam. The prophet says, "Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, Omniversal Church, and that's why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are the trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they're trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. True peace, your divine prophet, So keep doing the work. You gotta move past the naysayers, the haters, the soothsayers, etc. Allah is no different than Elohi. It is the same deity. It's not separate deities. Only ones that see separation are those that are separated from the divine truth. And that's just that. There's no possessing the divine. The divine or the truth belongs to no one. Who gave you a monopoly on the holy breath? Who gave you a monopoly on the sacred breath? Islam? So with that, we want to go ahead and extend the olive branch to those that need a temple home, a place to call home. You can go ahead and click that block of words at the top that says World Temple. Join us, even if it is just as a guest member of the temple. I want to go ahead and read this message to you from the prophet. The prophet speaks to the nations. The prophet said, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Temple of America and become a part of this divine movement. Then you will have power to redeem your race, because you will know who you are and your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is a field open to men, to strong men and women, to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish national divine movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. That was what was meant when it said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you by the prophet. All right, y'all, so I'm going to go ahead and do one more link change at the top. That way those that are coming back listening to the replay participate as active members in the royal audience. All right. Link change right quick. So we're going to go over these last two mandatory messages from the prophet. And we're going to close it out for tonight. Call it night, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed tonight's message, or at least resonated with you. messages from the prophet. The prophet wants us to read this and go over this in every temple service and meeting. This is a warning from the prophet to all the peacemakers and Muslims. The prophet states, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. True peace, Noble Drew Ali. All right, y'all, so let's get into this last message and get into our prayers. We're going to be calling it a night, y'all. Islam. The prophet wants us to proclaim this at every temple meeting and service. Islam. The prophet says, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam. The prophet should understand that money needed him. The money needed him. To be put to better use. To better economic use. The prophet had a mission. Islam. All right, y'all, so we're going to close out tonight with a prayer. I know nobody can't make any final contributions, so with that, we're just going to close it out. Like I said, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all holy day and that this message resonated with you all. So y'all know how it go: 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. True peace. What I do. I enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Islam.